All right, so let's talk about tendon injuries. This is gonna be a really long video, sorry in advance. So we've got to manage our injuries, of course, obviously. So non-operative injuries are gonna be something more like our mallet finger, boutonniere, occasionally a swan neck deformity. So there's different reasons why we might choose to conservatively manage these versus going to a surgical route, and that's because we're gonna do non-operative if it's like a partial tear. If it's a full-blown laceration, then we're gonna go and have it surgically repaired. So our mallet finger, the etiology of a mallet finger is got your finger and it's extended, it's just hanging out there, right? And then all of a sudden, wow, something hits it, or you hit something. And you've got forceful flexion, and basically the tendon ruptures. The extensor tendon comes in, it inserts on the base of the distal phalanx, and it's called the terminal tendon. And well, the terminal tendon either tears or it avulses, like part of the bone, part of the distal phalanx actually rips off with the tendon still attached. And so it's like, then you can't, you have what's called an extensor lag, and you are not able to actively extend your DIP joint. So here I'm able to actively extend my DIP. Somebody with mallet finger cannot do that. So we're gonna put them into an orthotic that is this one. So we're gonna put them into a mallet finger orthotic for their mallet finger. Wow. That is going to put them into DIP hyperextension. Now it's critical that they do not move out of this orthotic, and they do not allow their DIP to drop. We do not want any flexion of their DIP joint to occur, because while it's healing, if it does, it disrupts the process and you gotta start all over. So personally, my personal opinion, I think this is probably one of the most inconvenient injuries, just because you have to be so diligent about making sure that this does not fall into flexion at all. For 6 to 8 weeks, it's intense. So it really sucks. But there are ways to do things without, carrying and managing your orthotic device and your skin integrity without letting your finger fall into flexion. So I'm going to discuss that now. With this, you want to always, you want to make sure that the skin is staying intact, that it's not macerated, it's not getting wet and white and dead will fall off, because that's gross. Make sure there's no infection or anything like that. So tell the client to take their orthotic off, undo the strapping. But when they take it off, they have to be super, super aware of not letting it flex. So there you go. And then they can wash their finger. Not all the way, so not all of it, but then they can wash this out and, dry it off. You want to make sure it's completely dry before you put anything back on. And then to put it back on, kind of the same way, you got a little scoop it up like that, and then reapply it. So it may take an additional person for them to properly care for and manage, especially changing and washing and all that stuff. It's kind of that's why having multiple orthoses for them is great, because it might fly off in the middle of the night. Whoops. Make sure tape is really secure at night. It might, get lost. Other things can happen. Or it's really hard to thoroughly wash it with one hand, thoroughly wash and dry with one hand. So if they're able to put a second one on, then they can use their both hands to wash and dry the other one while this one's waiting. So that's mallet finger. Can do conservative management for that. We really want to make sure that it stays immobilized in the hyperextended position for about 6 to 8 weeks, because we want to make sure that if there is an avulsion fracture, that a bony callus is able to be formed, and that if it is an injury to the terminal tendon only, then we want to make sure that we're able to get that terminal tendon kind of back together. Treatment is going to be targeted at making sure that they have, flexion and extension, and I'll discuss that a little bit more later. I'm jumping the gun, getting ahead of myself, but it's I mean, they're really simple for all intents and purposes. Zones 1, 2, 3, 4 are pretty easy. It's zones 5 and below that surgically, they're easy, but rehab takes a lot more thought. So I'll discuss more about mallet finger in a minute. Don't want to get ahead of myself. Boutonniere deformity, however, is different. So boutonniere deformity is when we've got PIP flexion and DIP hyperextension. So boutonniere deformity, we're going to want to put them into what we call a PIP volar gutter. So this is going to hold them into extension and prevent flexion of the PIP joint. So like that. You want to make sure their MCPs are free and their DIPs are free, so that bad placement, that they're kind of able to do some things. So you really want to make sure that you're still doing these things here. Yeah, I'll discuss more about that in a minute too. We have this fun little swan neck deformity. Hi. This guy, I can take it out and do that, but I'm not able to. It's blocking my extension. Swan neck deformity is an injury to zone 2. So that's fun. Zone 2, there's not really a whole lot on Extensor zone 2 on the internet. A lot more protocols and everything about zones 1, 3, and all of the others, but zone 2 kind of gets left out. Let's see. I kind of finished discussing all that stuff on this slide. Sorry. Okay. Now we're discussing zone 1. Sorry to jump around. That was really crazy. I should have not done that. So again, zone 1, mallet finger. We've got this little mallet finger orthosis. It can develop into a swan neck deformity. The mechanism of that is really quite intense, so I'm not going to cover that. 6 to 8 weeks, keep DIP and hyperextension, PIP free. Emphasize, when you're going to really emphasize DIP extension, because you're wanting to make sure they do not have an extensor lag. And then you're going to start to slowly incorporate that PIP flexion, so progressive PIP flexion. And then zone 2, swan neck deformity. This is basically because because of dorsal displacement of the lateral bands. You've got lateral bands, guess what, laterally, right here. And then these are actually where your intrinsics attach. There's a whole anatomy thing I could go into, but I'm not. So you've got, with swan neck deformity, you've got hyperextension. See, look, it automatically, I push in and it automatically goes, because our bodies are crazy. They're amazing. Physics. Wow. Hyperextension at the PIP causes flexion at the DIP. Kind of able to, but I'm not really able to fully extend, especially if I've got some sort of disruption, especially to the dorsal displacement of the lateral bands. So we're going to put them into a PIP flexion. We're really going to make sure that we block that hyperextension. So we could even do a swan neck figure 8, which is thought I had it out. Okay, well here's one. I don't like it, but there's one. So this guy here, you put it on him. This is not made for this finger, but I'm not, this is really bad. This is the first one. Shouldn't be able to fully extend. So, bad material for this one also. But it was a great learning opportunity. So that, personally, I prefer this because it's softer, less aggravating to me. Yeah. Silver ring splints, really cool, classy, sleek. You don't really know that they're wearing something. It just looks like MIDI rings. It really, honestly, truly does. But it prevents that full extension and hyperextension of the PIP joint. So that's swan neck deformity. Zones 3 and 4, boutonniere deformity. It's caused by a rupture of the central slip. Central slip is where the extensor digitorum communis is going to insert on, and then the central slip inserts on the base of the proximal, nope, not proximal, the proximal base of the middle phalange. So you're going to want to keep them in PIP extension for 6 to 8 weeks, and then you're going to work on that targeted flexion and extension. So what you're going to do also is you can really want to make sure you're working on that extension. So to do that, have them, with their hand flat on the table, do extension exercises like this. And that'll really make sure that they're not flexing this joint. They have to be really intentional about it though. Yeah, let me see. That's blocking exercises. PIP flexion is initiated at 8 weeks if you have no extension lag. It's super, super important to make sure that you are not doing any flexion exercises with zones 3 or 4 until you've made sure that there is no extension lag, so they're able to do that. And there's different ranges as to what's acceptable for extension lag. You're probably never going to get back to full extension realistically. There was a disruption of the body mechanics, and so even with a repair, surgically repaired, surgeons are great, therapists are great, but it's just our bodies. So that's zones 3 and 4. Zones 3 and 4. So I discussed injuries and care and management for zones 1 through 4. And now I'm going to make a new video and we're going to discuss zones 5, 6, 7, and 8.